When you play the Game of Thrones, you
Subscribe and like.
or you die. There is no middle ground.
All right, hello YouTube. So we're back on the Grease Goblins channel. This video was a long time in the making. I'm finally getting around to doing a video that the comments wanted me to do multiple times, and a video I wanted to do. So season 8 of Game of Thrones is by far the worst season. It destroyed a show. It destroyed pretty much every character in the entire show, besides maybe a few, which we'll talk about. So this is going to be a deep analysis of characters, of plot points, what they did wrong, why the earlier seasons were so much more successful, and all that. So if you're excited for today's video, subscribe, like, and comment. I think I'm uploading like every day of the week this week, so yeah. Upload at 7 p.m. at Central Time, pretty much this entire week, and I usually try to do about 3 videos a week. So, the most glaring issue with Season 8 is the writing. This isn't a big surprise to anybody watching this video. It's pretty obvious. You look at what Game of Thrones was in the earlier season. Game of Thrones was something that was conversations, witty conversations, character development, world building, a lot of intriguing things. You look at season 1. All right, guys. So here's my cat. If any of you wanted to know, here's my kitty. But yeah. So getting back on topic, what I was saying is the earlier seasons, especially like season 1. You look at season 1, it was a really good season. I think it's probably my 3rd or 4th favorite season. It's very good. I just prefer some of the other seasons. But season 1 has no actual battles in it, besides, or like on-screen battles that we actually watch, besides like Ned and Jaime have a little scuffle. We have the tournament where you see the Mountain and the Hound fight for like a second or two. There's not really any other fighting. There's Ned's guys getting massacred. Everything that happens in season 1 is really good plot, a lot of character building, a lot of conversations, just really good storytelling. And you didn't need these big action scenes all the time. You didn't need all this stuff. The pace didn't need to be very quick. And season 8 does all of these things wrong. Every other episode, it feels like we have some sort of big battle. That's the same with season 7 as well. We have some sort of big battle because the writers D&D did not know how to write good conversations. They, a lot of the times, did teleporting. You know, Varys would be here and then he'd be somewhere else. The pace was too quick. Okay? And what George says makes sense. They needed another 2 or 3 seasons, maybe even more than that, with how much stuff they took out of the show, or out of the books. They needed more seasons, and the writers were just too lazy. So I think what needed to happen was either D&D needed to stop being stupid and actually just finish the show how it needed to be finished, or they needed to get new writers. Because obviously they didn't really care about this show anymore. They just didn't really care. It's obvious. When you have these background interviews where they go, Dany just forgot about the fleet, or Euron's fleet. What? So we went from the beginning seasons where Robb, we see with the Blackfish, always has writers that are, outriders, seeing what's in front of them, seeing what they're walking into. To Daenerys, Euron's fleet has already screwed her over so many times now that she just doesn't look for this fleet. It's hard to fathom. Now, getting back to the dialogue and the writing that I was talking about, think about Jon's character. He says almost nothing impactful the entire season. His dialogue is basically McQueen, or I don't want it, or something like that every time. He's such a bland and boring character. They took the character that I think was the most loved character for the first, in my opinion, for the first 5 seasons. I didn't like Jon in season 6 forward because he came very one-dimensional. He had a bunch of plot armor. and he was just boring. He was a boring character because in season 5, that was, I think, the best part of Jon. He dies. Now, what should have happened is he came back, but he's a different character. We saw this for maybe half an episode where he kind of changed a little bit, and then he goes back to just being Jon again, and then he's bland. You see that at its peak in season 8. Tyrion. They completely destroy his character. It's been destroyed over multiple seasons now at this point. He's not witty. He's not clever anymore. All he can make is either eunuch jokes or he just stuff that just is terrible. Saying to Jaime, what's Brienne like down there? Like, what? It's a complete destruction of characters that were witty and were really cool. Even Sansa, who is a character they screwed up, but she had some sort of an arc in the show. What is her relevance in season 8? The only thing she does that is impactful in season 8 is she basically tells Tyrion what Jon's parents are. That could have been given to any character. They could have given that to Bran when they're having the little conversation. It's so bad the way that they try to. You can tell they're trying to get from one plot point to the next. There's no building character. There's no completing arcs. And I'll talk about the worst two. There's two main ones that they completely and utterly butcher. Daenerys. Now here's the thing. I like the Daenerys Mad Queen thing. I'm somebody that wanted them to do that. And even I can't get behind what they did. Like, yes, there's little sprinkles of Daenerys, like, she burns people, like the Tarleys, okay? That maybe was a little extreme. But again, they openly defied her. Yes, she could have said, okay, do you want to go to the Night's Watch? Do you maybe you keep him prisoner? But I don't have that many problems with her burning the Tarleys. I don't have that many problems. They openly rejected her. So, don't really have too much of a problem with that. The nailing of the slave masters. Again, yeah, that's kind of bad just because, but you have to be thinking where she's coming from. She just watched a bunch of kids, the same thing happening to them. It's not right, but it's not enough to say she's Mad Queen where she's going to burn down an entire city for almost no reason. Because she has motives to why she does that to the slave masters. She has no motive to just start mowing them down in the streets. Because why? They don't openly hate Cersei and just open the gates for her. Like, for one, yes, they screwed that up. Cersei in King's Landing should have been a place where the people were in fear of Cersei or open rebellion against her because of what they did to the Sept and the Tyrells who were loved. So there's a lot of things they got wrong with that. Daenerys, there were so many opportunities that I think they could have done to fix Daenerys' character. I've talked about this before. The way they killed Barristan in the show has a ripple effect. Because they could have saved Barristan, and Barristan being Daenerys' only real father figure, it would have been so much more impactful if we see Barristan die like that. Maybe to do that. Maybe, and then she starts going a little insane. Or maybe develop Missandei a little bit. Like, they have a couple cute scenes together with Daenerys, but it's not like to the Barristan level where you see that relationship, or like a Jorah level. And it's just not enough. Why, like, if you wanted to get revenge on Cersei, just go to the Red Keep and burn the Red Keep. Why would you burn all of the city? Another thing they do with the bells doesn't sound surrender. We get in season 2 from Davos that the bells actually mean like there's a siege or a war basically happening, and I'm going to play the clip.
I've always hated the bells. They ring for horror. A dead king, a city under siege.
A wedding.
Exactly.
But it's amazing how illogical Daenerys' whole plot goes. She goes from being this person that freezes the slaves and all this stuff, all this good stuff with, a couple bad things, to she's gonna burn everybody. She's a mad queen. She's gonna liberate the rest of the world. She goes to being like Darth Sidious. Like, it makes no sense. Something that needed to be steadily balanced, where they started to dive into Daenerys getting more cruel and stuff like that over 2 or 3 seasons, and they did it in like 2 or 3 episodes, and they didn't even develop it that well. They even try to use Rhaegal dying again. It's like, that was such a bad way to kill Rhaegal. Like, if you were gonna do that, why don't you just have Rhaegal die to Viserion in the battle at Winterfell? Like, why bring him back just so he gets killed like that? What? And that leads me to the next character I want to talk about, Jaime. So Jaime I think it's the worst one, because the worst character they just destroy. Because you see Jaime, we have this he has one of the best character arcs of any movie, any series, any books. He's this character we all hate at the beginning. Nobody likes Jaime, okay? He's arrogant, and it just seems like a bad dude from the outside. And we slowly learn, how Jaime, about his past, and we learn of this good arc. He starts being more of a honorable guy, and we see this all the way through. He breaks away from Cersei, all this stuff. He seems like he's a really good guy. He's helping fight off the dead, even though the Lannister army's not with him. Cersei doesn't want him to do that. He does all this. We finally think that Jaime is a hero now. He's a protagonist, and he goes ahead and says he still loves Cersei, that she's a spiteful woman, directly after sleeping with Brienne. What? What? Like, sure, I get what they were going for. They were like, you can never like fight off your demons or whatever, but you can't do it the way they did it. There's no inkling that Jaime was going to go back to her. He just up and leaves one day because it was to get Jaime in King's Landing. This is what D&D do so much in the show. They see the end result, but don't care how they get there. Right? Bringing down the wall in season 7. How do we get there? We're just going to have Jon and the boys go on a little trip, beyond the wall to get a white. What? They could have just had Daenerys go over there, pick one up. But no, we do this because they wanted this whole extravagant thing where Daenerys had to go beyond the wall to lose a dragon, so then the dragon brings the wall down. Because they didn't introduce the Horn of Winter or anything like that. It's what D&D does. They know what they want to do at the end, but they don't know how to get there. Same thing with Daenerys' plot line. It's a mess. So more or less, we keep going with Jaime's character. He eventually gets caught. Tyrion releases Jaime, and in their conversation, he goes, I never really cared about the people. Like, what? That's obviously false. We've had a scene where you legitimately say the exact opposite. So Jaime then goes, we have this awful scene with him and Euron. That is one of the worst scenes. It's really just a kick in the face for anybody that likes Euron in the books. That entire scene, we're not even going to talk about it. We're going to go on. He saves Cersei, basically, and they're going to this little boat to, escape or whatever. And they get killed by bricks. One of the main antagonists, I'd say probably the second biggest antagonist besides the others, or the White Walkers in the show, is Cersei. And she gets killed by bricks. The character really have wanted to see die in a meaningful way for this long dies because of bricks. And Jaime dies too, to bricks. So unsatisfying. They completely just say no to the Valonqar prophecy. It would have made so much more sense if Cersei's like, we're gonna light the wildfire or something, and Jaime has another parallel that he kills her, fulfilling the prophecy, and basically completing his arc. But no, we're going for surprise factor, so they died of bricks. It's so horrible. And that's just the main two that I think they butchered the most. I think the only character that I think there's two characters where I'm like kind of okay with how they went and how they ended up is Arya. Arya has a decent, I don't like her killing the Night King and all that, but her end result where it's like, oh yeah, you know, with her little talk with the Hound before they're gonna go kill Cersei. Oh yeah, you know, revenge is not always good. Look at my life, you know, Arya, and look what it does to you. Hate and stuff like this. You have more to live for and stuff like that, right? That's really good because that's what Arya's whole, you know, arc has been, her wanting revenge on all these people, and finally it comes to an end, right? She, you know, says she has a family and stuff like that, and all this. I'm fine with that part. That part's good. That's very good. What do they do in the literal end part of the next episode? They say, screw that, screw family, all that. I'm gonna go what's west of Westeros. That was a bad ending because of how they set it up. If they didn't say all this family stuff for Arya, fine, whatever. So that, I think that story was fine. And then Theon, I think was okay. I thought Theon protecting Bran and then dying basically to protect Bran was fine. I was okay with it. I think he got a good death scene, and yeah, those are the ones I'm okay with. Again, I want to talk about Jon. He doesn't talk at all in this season, basically. He doesn't say anything. The fact that Jon, okay, actually, I will say Jon's ending's not too bad either, as in he gets to live, like, north of the wall, which is fine. But the fact that, you know, we'll talk about Bran. We'll talk about Bran right now as well. I don't really have a format to this video right now. I'm just going off of characters, and we're going to talk about overarching themes and stuff. But Bran, okay? Bran is king, apparently. He says this whole time he doesn't want anything. He has no wants. So Tyrion, who should have no say at all, I have no idea why he's still alive. I have no idea why Grey Worm hasn't killed Jon and Tyrion at this point. But fine. For some reason, then Grey Worm lets Tyrion go to this little meeting and actually pretty much direct the meeting and be in charge of it. So they're all saying who should be king or whatever. Edmure's like, hey, maybe I should be king. And they all laugh at him, basically, and tell him to sit down. Which, yes, Edmure's not the best candidate, but Edmure is, and he controls one of the 7 kingdoms. It's not like out of nowhere. Like, that does make sense. He's also a veteran of a war at this point. So I can see why he would think that. The fact that he just gets dismissed like that, but then 5 seconds later, Tyrion goes, who has the better story? Bran was excluded from an entire season of the show. If you take away Bran from the entire story, what changes? Like, think about it, right? Bran, let's remove Bran. Besides, after he falls, he is almost irrelevant to the show of the plot. Or the show plot. Not talking about the books, the show plot. Think about it. His only impactful things that happen with the story, okay, is he wargs into the wolves to help Jon when he's going away from the wildlings. So that's one big thing. He does this again when they are at Craster's Keep and they're fighting. That was actually before that one I just mentioned. And then you've got, let's see, he goes, you know, around the wall or whatever. He goes north. That whole plot doesn't affect anything. He comes back. The only thing he does is sit there, being bait for the Night King. He tells Jon what his parentage is, which doesn't matter, by the way. That has no effect to the story. Take that out, nothing changes. Besides, Jon and Daenerys kind of are a little now. Like, they don't like each other as much, or Jon doesn't like her as much. Bran is a character that in the show kickstarts the conflict and then does not matter. He does not matter. Saying that he has the best story is just stupid. There are so many people that have a better story in this room than Bran, or this little area. Let's just name a few. You have yourself, Tyrion, Sansa, Arya. Edmure's debatable because Edmure like has a bunch of stuff going on with the War of the Five Kings. He's involved in the Red Wedding, all this stuff. I would argue Edmure. Sam definitely Sam has a way better story that impacts more. You have, let's see, who else is sitting in the room? Davos. Davos' story is better. You have Brienne's story, which is better. And then Gendry probably not, because in the show they just kind of, So there are 7 characters. And also, we should throw in Jon as well, because Jon's not dead. 8 characters that have a better story than Bran. And what does having a good story have anything to do with how you rule a kingdom? Does Bran have any idea how to run finances, how to be a leader, how to run an army, how to keep the people pleased and stuff like that? No. Bran knows information. He knows all of this stuff. And by the way, nobody even bats an eye at the Starks basically taking all the power in Westeros. They now have the North, which is an independent kingdom ruled by Sansa. The rest of the kingdoms are run by Bran. And we've had Doran, or the Dornish, say, they want independence. We've had the Ironborn say they want independence. Literally, like, maybe a season ago. Maybe 2. I don't know if it was season 6 or season 7. But everybody just agrees to this? Nobody brings up Gendry, who has a better claim, because he's been legitimized now, so he's a Baratheon. He's the rightful heir and son to Robert Baratheon. Or we could go the other route, if you're Targaryen route, that Jon Snow is actually Aegon Targaryen, the son of Rhaegar. And neither of these candidates are brought up, by the way. Neither. It's just Bran. Now, don't get me wrong, Bran could end up being king. But the way they did it was so badly. The reasoning for it was terrible. It's very much one of these things where it's like George gave them the answer who's going to be king, and they just had no idea how to get there. I don't understand. I do not understand. Backtracking a little bit, we'll go back to the Battle for Winterfell and the others. That for the amount of budget they had for this season, that quite possibly could be the worst battle scene or battle episode in a lot of series with that kind of budget. That battle scene is worse than any battle scene in the entire series. Because what you can say about the Battle of Bastards, right, is yes, it's illogical with plot armor and doing the veil shows up at the last second. It's just kind of so much plot armor, and so a lot of it is just illogical. But it's beautifully shot. You can see everything going on. It's really entertaining to watch. It's really cool. None of that is in this. The Battle of Winterfell with the others is, guess what? You can't see it. 2, the logic behind it is awful. Have you, like D&D, have you ever watched any battle? Ever? Read up, done any history of how a battle works? Why would you put your catapults in the front? Your catapults are supposed to be there so you can continuously bombard the enemy. They shoot off one little thing and then, the catapults are useless. Next, we say in a scene, like before this, that we cannot take a one-on-one fight. We can't just run at the others and win. So what do? They send the Dothraki directly into the White Walkers. Now, who knows if they actually died or not, because they come back in like the next episode and we have no explanation of how that happened. It's The logic of this entire episode is terrible. And then we have this thing where they keep teasing characters are going to die. Like, the first half of the episode, I'm like, they might kill some people. And then it got to a point where I'm like, does it matter? I don't think any of these characters are going to die. When Jon has to make this decision of saving Sam or going to fight the Night King, that is a very powerful scene. That could have been. Say Sam dies there. That is a very impactful scene. That is more of a Game of Thrones scene. But no, there's no consequences to this. Jon not saving Sam doesn't mean anything. Sam doesn't die. Nothing happens to Sam. He's not injured. Nothing. Jon then goes and taunts a dragon. He yells at a dragon. I don't even need to tell you how stupid that is. But, yeah, whatever. And then they do a very big callback earlier on the season when Melisandre's like, says to Arya that you will close, all these eyes. They actually changed that, by the way, because they say blue eyes is in a different order. So Arya then goes and runs off, and that's it. We see her run off, and we see basically the Night King approaching Bran. By the way, the whole time I'm expecting Bran to do something, like do literally anything. Like, I don't know, warg one of the dragons. Like, say Jon or Daenerys gets knocked off one, which does happen. He wargs into one of the dragons and just starts doing something. That doesn't happen. Bran legitimately does nothing. He just sits there. So then we see, Theon die and all this, and it looks like the Night King's about to kill Bran. And Arya, who's a trained assassin, by the way, starts yelling as she's trying to kill the Night King. How stupid do you have to be to start yelling? So he just turns around, grabs her by the neck, and what should have happened is one of two things. Physical contact we've seen with a White Walker is painful and bad. We saw it on Bran. The moment he caught her in the air, he should have basically choked her to death. She should have died almost instantly. But no, he just kind of sits there and just looks at her. And then he does a little trick and stabs him. That was the most anticlimactic way you could have ended the White Walkers, which we got no background on them. We have no idea. In the show, we have no idea what they're even up to, why they're doing any of this. They're just a good versus bad thing, which D&D said was not going to happen, but they turned it into a good versus bad thing regardless. And Arya killing the Night King makes no sense. Arya has almost nothing to do with the Night King. They tried to do this whole thing where it's like, oh, Arya defeats death. Arya has always been off in her own little world doing facing personal antagonists to her. Not this whole thing. And I'm saying Jon needed to kill the Night King, even though it made the most sense. But at least give us a fight. Let's say Jon is fighting the Night King. They're going at it. The Night King looks like he's going to win. And then you see Arya maybe as they're fighting. It's a scene where you got to pay attention. You see Arya kind of, slowly walk into frame or whatever with the other White Walkers where all they're facing, this battle. He sneaks in and then, stabs them back. We could have had a parallel to the scene they show us, the Tower of Joy, where Ned's about to lose and Howland Reed stabs him, stabs Arthur Dayne in the back. Could have seen a parallel like that, which would have been kind of cool. Or something like that. If you wanted Arya to kill a Night King, that's fine, but you have to do it in a better way. That's more satisfying to the viewer, or that makes any type of logical sense. And that just does not apply in this at all. So it's just one of these things where the Battle for Winterfell should have killed off so many characters, and really it kills off a bunch of characters that it's just, yeah, okay, sure. The biggest character that dies is Theon, but what else did Theon have left to serve? Theon's arc was basically done. So that was a character that was expected. Ser Jorah. again, a minor character at this point. He hasn't really had any type of plot relevance in years at this point, or seasons. So, okay. Like, it just, there's so many characters that just, the characters that die at the Battle of Winterfell, it's like, okay, whatever. You're sitting there as a viewer saying, okay, none of the major characters actually died. No character that actually matters died. We saw so many situations where they're all getting rushed by White Walkers, where in any situation that happens in earlier seasons, they're dead. And in this season, for some reason, everybody has plot armor. So, the plot armor is just too much. It's too much in this last season. I can't stomach it. We continue on, going on with just other scenes where, looking at even the aftermath of Daenerys burning down the city. Jon walking up to Grey Worm when he's killing a bunch of prisoners who are unarmed, have given up, have surrendered, and Grey Worm goes, orders are orders, man. I was told to kill them all no matter what. Like, what? So we just kill them because they were fighting for Cersei, when previously, when they beat basically the Tarly and Lannister forces in season 7, Daenerys goes, you follow me, we're good, we're fine. I guess that's not an option anymore, because she's crazy. And there's just so many illogical scenes. Drogon burning the throne just makes no sense, because the show writers even say that, like, Drogon really, it was just like he just did it to do it because he was angry. There was no actual, like, meaning to it. It's so bad. It's so bad. And then you have the conversation with Tyrion and Jon, where Tyrion's pretty much trying to convince us, the audience, and Jon that she's crazy, when it just doesn't come out right. Like, it's so disappointing. It's so disappointing. So, this video is getting pretty long, but I'm going to go and just get to the end with the finale. There's a lot more I could have talked about in this video. With Euron's destruction as a villain. Just all sorts of things, but getting to the finale. So, I talked about Bran getting elected king and all this other stuff. Why is Jon alive? The Dothraki, Dany named all the Dothraki her Blood Riders, which basically means you kill Daenerys, we're killing you. There's no rest until you are dead. Jon just gets to be a prisoner. Grey Worm, who has nothing left to live for, decides, yeah, fine. He's a prisoner. And then, the stupidest thing, they decide to let Jon go back to the Wall. The Dothraki are leaving. Okay, the Unsullied are leaving. Who's going to make sure this happens? You're going back to they're sending him back to the kingdom where his sister rules. Also, he lived at the Wall, and why is there a wall? The White Walkers are dead. The wildlings, presumably, are all south. What are we guarding against? Some bears? Some wolves? There's no Night Watch. Like, it's such a bad scene. It's so stupid and illogical. Jon at this point should probably be the king, but that's too likely to happen, so they're like, we're good. That's stupid. Sansa, again, getting to rule the North with nobody caring. Whatever. Like, I guess, sure, why not? She seems like a capable ruler, I guess. And another thing I wanted to say, as I'm talking about this, that I just thought about, D&D like to do this thing where we have a meaningful conversation or a meaningful scene, and they cut away. One of the most important scenes in the entire show should have been when Jon is telling, the rest of his family that he's actually, Lyanna's son and Rhaegar's son. And they cut it. We don't even get the reaction of Sansa and Arya learning this information. It's just cut. We're supposed to just sit there and wonder. It's so bad. It's so bad. And we even have another scene where Sansa and Daenerys are kind of talking, one-on-one or whatever. and tension's building and stuff because she's saying, the North is going to be independent, and Daenerys is like, no. And then all of a sudden, Theon just interrupts, breaking all tension, and we never hear this ever again. Bran and Jaime, okay? Right, we have this scene. It's pretty, it's supposed to be a very impactful scene. Goes on for a minute, and they just drop it. That happens a lot in this season. It's really bad. They went away from the strengths of the show, or the books even, as well. And it's horrible writing. It's just horrible writing. Grey Worm taking all of the Unsullied back to North when there's a reason nobody can go there. Like, it's just so bad. And if you like season 8, I don't really know how. Like, you must not really care that much about the backstory or you must just like the pretty pictures. Like, it's just, God, it's bad. I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want to talk about to end this video out? Oh, the biggest thing and why George probably is still pissed and has probably lost a lot of, I don't know, I guess, ability to write the books now, because the show completely destroyed all of his themes, George's themes. George's main themes, and I talk about this in the Others video I did last week, was, the thing is, he has an anti-war theme. They completely destroy that in the show. This good versus bad, morality thing, it's not a thing. Everybody is kind of that gray. You understand why characters are like the way they are. And this last season, we just find out, oh, the others are bad. That's it. The whole idea of climate change, which George puts into the books, is non-existent here. Which I understand why they would take that out, because it's kind of controversial, gets political and stuff. But it just runs away from every theme that George ever creates in the books. And you get to the end of season 8, and you're like, what is the theme of Game of Thrones? From beginning to end, what is the theme? I can't tell you. I have no idea what the theme is. There's a theme from about season 1 to season 5. And then there's no theme left. It is a complete and utter stab, or it's just a butchering of George's books. Even though George hasn't released the books yet, I myself could have created a better story than that. Like, I could have written a better story than that. And if I can, I know, because I'm not the most intelligent person when it comes to Song of Ice and Fire lore. I really love talking about this stuff, but I will not here sitting here and say I'm the most knowledgeable person in the world about this stuff. There's so many great fan theories that were significantly better than what they produced. And it is probably will go down as the worst ending to a great show ever. Because when I sit here now and I look at the show, I used to go, hey, you should watch Game of Thrones. It's a very good show. And I would say this to all my friends. I always wanted to watch them. So I had people to talk about this stuff with. And now I look at it and I'm like, if you want to watch the show, watch the first 4, I'd say about the first 5 seasons, end it there, and then you can read the books, because it's just bad. What's the point? And that's pretty much it. That's that. I think this is a good, nice, long video for you guys. It is hard to think about this because it was terrible for me. I remember watching the finale and that season just in general and just being so angry because it just was terrible. And I had read a lot of the leaks, so I knew kind of what was going to happen before it even happened. And I was just kind of sitting there hoping that this wasn't true. And because I thought this writing is so dumb, there's no way that these leaks are correct, and it ended up being true. So yeah, if you guys want to see more rant videos, I can do season 7, season 6, season 5. I can even do some of the earlier seasons talking about some key decisions that D&D did that actually destroyed character arcs down the road that we didn't really notice too much then. But yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe for more of these ones, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.